storyteller, Sam Shaber. Everybody clap it up. So my friend Maribel from college always got the most out of life. She had this beautiful open smile. She had these dreamy blue eyes. She really relished the unusual and found beauty in the bizarre. This is why she befriended the bearded lady at Coney Island. This is why she loved one summer working as a diamond runner on 47th Street, just casually walking around Manhattan with a backpack full of millions of dollars worth of jewels. She thought it was hilarious. And so this is why Maribel was the perfect person to bring with me when I booked my very first tour in 1997. It was 16 gigs in 24 days, beginning on September 2nd in Missoula, Montana, and driving a big oval through the American West. And so Maribel would keep me company, she would help sell my CDs, and she would share the driving. And she was very excited about this. She only had her learner's permit, and she wanted to practice. So this, in fact, was one of her conditions for coming on the trip. That and that we go see the Grand Canyon, which was all fine by me. So we sealed the deal. We headed out to Missoula, and we picked up our rental car for the trip, which was not exactly a rock star tour bus. It was a used manual Ford Aspire hatchback from a place called Ugly Duckling Rentals. So 2 hours up the hill from Missoula, the car was already losing power very rapidly, and white smoke was rising from under the hood. So we pulled off to call Ugly Duckling, and they were bringing us a replacement. And Maribel suddenly sprang into action, her dreamy blue eyes lit up, and she threw up a picnic on the roadside and made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Because for her, this was not a setback, this was an adventure. And eventually the Ugly Ducklings showed up, and they traded us for a dark blue Hyundai Scoop with automatic seatbelts. And Maribel was thrilled. She said, "Look, automatic seatbelts. This is better than the original car anyway." So we moved on. There were a few more gigs, and then we got to Boulder, Colorado, where I played at the West End Tavern, still there. And 3 people showed up, including Maribel. So I was despondent. I mean, all of my rock star dreams, how would I ever get there from here? But Maribel reminded me that the point of this is to play a really good show. It's not about how many people come. And the next night in Denver, I got my very first encore. So we began to call our trip the Silver Lining Tour, because every time something went wrong, something really good happened to balance it out. Like our first car broke down, but we got a better car with automatic seatbelts. And the gig in Boulder sucked, but the gig in Denver was so good that I got an encore. So September 8th was Maribel's 24th birthday, and we had reached Santa Fe at this point. So in Santa Fe, I bought her a silver cuff bracelet, and I got it engraved by this hippie biker guy named Bear with, with the words Silver Lining Tour 1997. And at dinner that night, she opened it to discover that Bear had spelled it Silver Lining Tour instead. But again, her dreamy blue eyes just lit up because that made it all the more special, and she loved it even more. So a few more days, few more gigs, and then it was finally time to go to the Grand Canyon. And we checked out of a Arizona motel that morning, 9:30, and Maribel made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And we got in the car, and she was driving as far as Flagstaff, and then we would switch. And we were so, Grand Canyon, here we come, like we set off. And then I woke up from this deep restorative sleep, and I stretched, and I thought maybe I had just taken a nap. I didn't know what was going on, and I realized that I was on a gurney in a hospital corridor. And in my fingers, there was dirt and glass and blood. And no one could tell me where Maribel was. No one could even tell me who she was. And on September 20th, it was supposed to be my 25th birthday. And Maribel and I were supposed to be in San Francisco on the tour celebrating. But instead, we were in New York in a wood-paneled funeral home at Maribel's wake. A few miles out from the Arizona motel, Maribel had overcorrected on a tight curve, and the car flipped over completely. And I had a minor concussion, but she was ejected out the windshield and down onto a rock, and it cracked her skull. I had been wearing both the automatic shoulder belt and the lap belt, but Maribel had skipped the lap belt, just letting the automatic shoulder piece suffice, which it hadn't. So I sat on a chair in the back of the funeral home, and Maribel lay up at the front in an open casket. And she was still beautiful, even with her face swollen and waxy and her dreamy blue eyes permanently closed. And I will always keep her with me, and I will always have Maribel inside me. But sometimes there are no silver linings. Thank you.